Hi, this is Patrick Filati with the Global Mana Foundation. I want to address the Paris Agreements and I want to revisit the KYOTO Protocol. Essentially, the Paris Agreements have stirred up an uprising in Paris. Offsetting global warming would not have to come from middle-class people, it would actually come from the companies that are actually polluting. I think that we should go back to the KYOTO Protocol where there is a mandatory emissions limit, meaning that countries that pollute more than their limit would have to pay taxes to countries that produce less. Those taxes would be paid for by pollution from companies, essentially, and that money would be used for the sustainable development projects all over the world, and it would create the framework for a realistic carbon market. The goal is to close the carbon cycle and also to remove gigatons of carbon dioxide. I believe that growing algae with carbon dioxide to create a soil amendment for organic farming is really a huge step forward. This is a very difficult thing to convince people of. We would need the agricultural experts in the world to take a look at the effects of using the algae soil fertilizers to amend the soils. But also, today, desertification is actually a factor of climate change. So growing algae to plant and remediate soil and extract water from the atmosphere or use RO systems from the ocean, reverse osmosis, to grow forests on desert landscapes. This would be like a public works project, but in doing so we could potentially sequester billions of tons of carbon dioxide. Now that the United Nations has endorsed this, the gas and oil companies are actually well aware of producing liquid hydrocarbon fuels from direct air capture and hydrogen. And now a new company called Carbon Engineering has announced they can produce this fuel at the same cost roughly at the gas station. So I think there's a lot of hope in the world, but I think that the majority of the world shouldn't split the bill for climate change. This should come with a carbon market that would end up paying for these technologies. In order to actually remove physically the many gigatons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, to not only stabilize the atmosphere, but to avert global catastrophes by reducing the carbon emissions, we would need a massive scale-up. And that's what the UN has said, is that we need to have direct air capture technologies deployed all over the world. In order to really do that, we have to stabilize the carbon market and revisit the KYOTO Protocol.